Hi guys, I'm Wojcicki and this is my first ever proper video on my channel. I'm gonna cut to the chase and put this disclaimer. This video is made to inform other people to steer clear from this game and community, speaking from a person that used to be in this community for a good 5 years at this point. But also this video is also made to test out the text-to-speech system I'm using, as I do not own a microphone, nor do I have plans of getting one. Thanks. Before I start complaining about this game, I'll give a brief description of what this game is about. Data Brawl is a 2018 Roblox PvP game based inside of a computer, where you can choose 4 teams, the 2 villainous corruption teams and the 2 benevolent teams. While the 2 villainous teams are identical and function with only visual differences, the program and firewall are 2 differently functioning allied teams that both rely on each other. Programs cannot fend for themselves as well as the other 3 teams, but they can use certain machines located on the map to support themselves and their fellow teammates. Firewall security is tasked with both protecting programs and destroying the malware and viruses. Meanwhile, the 2 corruption teams are simply tasked with killing everything around them, including the opposing corruption team, as the malware and virus teams are not allied, unlike the benevolent teams. Unlike the program and firewall teams, they can use throwable mines that spawn around the map to cause heavy damage to opposing teams. Additionally, they have the ability to consume program hearts, consumable items which heal the consumer over time for a limited time. These hearts are dropped by programs or by corruptions already holding program hearts when they're killed. Each of the 4 teams in Data Brawl have characters that players can automatically play as upon spawning into the map. Standard characters are one of the most common characters for a player to spawn as and have standard stats. Meanwhile, non-standard characters are less common. One example of non-standard characters is the brawler characters, such as malware virus brawlers, and firewall executors and program chubs, which are larger, faster, and stronger variants of the standard characters, with chubs having the ability to spawn food. The chance of spawning as an brawler chub is set to 0% if the player dies outside of combat. Another example of non-standard characters are nibbles, which are support characters that are only playable by the 2 corruption teams and the program team. Then, there are the rare spawn characters, which are even less common than the aforementioned non-standard characters and have their own set of unique properties. Having the chance of spawning in as any of the non-standard characters can be avoided by pressing the player's default button, which will force the player to spawn as a standard character. Support characters can be obtained by pressing player's support button. Nibbles jiggles can either slap allies to give them items or use the items themselves. Corruption nibbles can also charge into enemies. However, jiggles are unable to charge. Bites are able to help allies by slowly bringing down the health of enemies or healing allies depending on their team and type. Scout and corruption bites can damage, meanwhile program bites can only heal and have no attacks. These healing bites are especially useful for tank classes like bloatware and bodyers. Meaty walls and firewall scouts are the only support characters for the firewall security team. Meaty Wall has a syringe which can either stab to damage enemies or shoot a ball of liquid that explodes and heals allies. Firewall scouts function the same as the corruption bites mentioned above, however, they can deal more damage than corruption bites, and they have more HP. Firewall sentries are a rare spawn for the firewall security team, having a 25% chance of spawning instead of a firewall executor. They have a large amount of HP, cannot jump, and are able to switch between 2 modes of attack, a mobile, melee-oriented form, and a sessile, ranged-oriented form. This is the official description from the Data Brawl fandom wiki. Its roleplay variant called DBRP is pretty straightforward, a RP game with a lot of community-made characters as well as dev-made ones too. Not a lot to say there. It's just your average RP game on Roblox. Now that I yapped about something 99% of people probably skip till start listing this game's problems, starting with the smaller issue SE. Data Brawl is an inherently flawed game at its balancing system. One of the issues being that the good side has a smaller team size than the bad guys, resulting in a lot of team stomping from the bad side. Since they have more players on their team, weapons with higher DPS, and a lot of special tokens spawning at their spawn site. It causes a lot of unfair gameplay, as it's very easy to be erased from the map if you do as little as exist in the relative area of an entire horde, which is unfortunate, as this has stayed the same for the 7 years this game has been out now. Another one of the issues is that the program teams are so nerfed that getting any kills is as difficult as driving a car without a steering wheel, as your laughably weak fists do tickle damage compared to a virus's battle axe that can delete half your HP in one hit, which results in the program team not being full a lot of the time, making the already small team sizes even smaller for the good team, which ends up making the program team very undesirable to play as and is very obsolete as a team as a result, making the game more as a cone versus cube simulator, with an occasional firewall intervention. Another issue with the battle version is that the game is very pay to win at times, having game passes that are pretty much required to have in order to have a chance to play the game. The game passes being a Vic Pass that gives the player more HP in spawn, with a healing food item on spawn, a brawler booster which gives a higher chance as spawning as a brawler of a chub character, a premium program pass that gives the program a little more health, and hits slightly harder than usual. However, this helps very little, as you still get tapped by a lot of the weapons in game. All of these combined make a very torturous experience as a free-to-play, as you get unfairly killed just because someone had one or more of these game passes, which is pretty ridiculous in my personal opinion. Lastly, one of the issues is that the special token characters are sometimes very abusable or straight up useless. The full list of special tokens or bodyers are the only token classes that are shared between teams. They are extremely buffed versions of brawlers chubs, trading slow movement speed, the inability to jump, and slow health regen in exchange for powerful attacks capable of launching opponents, as well as large amounts of health. Bloatware, the bodyer of the program team, also randomly spawns food around it and explode into bloat blobs when killed, which spawn consumable items for corruption teams and are capable of being used 3 times. These characters are the main culprit of unbalances gameplay, since they are so heavily defended with mages as well as other special token characters that they end up being unstoppable forces for hours on end, at times making the game kind of frustrating to play against since their range is pretty long. Program token characters hardware carry giant swords with a large range that can do heavy damage to opposing corruptions. They can also slam this sword on the ground as a radius attack. However, they are very slow and cannot jump. This character can either be really good in teams or shit when you're alone due to its slow weapon deployment. Software are fast and can spawn food to give to teammates. They can also throw bombs known as jelly Dota nuts, which explode into particles of jelly that damage enemies and heal allies. Softwares are pretty crappy, as they are essentially a slightly worse version of the programs, give or take, as their fists do pitiful damage as well as their donut attack that mildly inconveniences the enemy. Princess Rams are capable of spawning large bubble shields around them. These shields protect and heal any teammates in radius while keeping corruptions out. However, if hit enough, these shields can be broken, and even if they aren't broken, they'll eventually go away on their own. They can also parry attacks from enemies, causing the enemy to get stunned. These are protected like crazy within the game, and can live for hours if defended good enough. Edge carries a knife that they can use to damage opposing teams. When they're closer to death, they trade the strength of their knife's attack for a faster cooldown and walk speed. In my personal opinion, a mid character, since you're encouraged to take damage to gain faster speed and attack, but you have so little health that you usually die before you get a lot of kills. Cookies carry rolling pins that function as melee weapons, as well as slingshots which can temporarily stun enemies. Upon death, they explode into damaging clouds of jelly, universally known as the worst token, and the only straight downgrade, as they do nearly no damage. Prince Rams wield large swords as their weapons of choice. They also have the ability to make a radius around them that can buff allies. Corruption token characters Spyware carry fast knives as well as disguise tools, which disguise them as the standards of each team when used. However, this disguise instantly goes away when hit or when they pull out a weapon. Additionally, Spyware can cloak themselves, making them invisible for 10 seconds while also making them slightly faster. Imagine the Kunai Spy from Team Fortress, but somehow worse, and without the dead ringer. Scareware carry spears with long reaches, but narrow hitboxes. They can also unleash screams which temporarily stuns any opponents nearby for 3 seconds. They can also turn invisible like spyware, however, they can become invisible for 12 seconds, albeit without the speed boost. If you have 5 of these bitches on one team, get prepared to be stun-locked for all of eternity. Seeds are slow in walk speed and unable to jump. However, they can use their fists, or throw large rocks, to deal heavy damage to opponents. Good only in crowds. HAPPY99S can shoot projectiles out of their hands, as well as spin their fists around rapidly to make a getaway, or catch up to an enemy. They can also collect mines to shoot explosive bombs at enemies, with the power, size, and behavior of each bomb depending on how many mines are collected, with the maximum being 3. Good only in crowds but do massive damage, and suffer the same issue as bodyers, being unstoppable forces, if paired up together, which most of the time are. Gruels can use their ladles as both a melee weapon and ranged weapon, hitting enemies with its ladle, while also throwing damaging soup. They can also throw the soup downward, as a form of jump boost. Additionally, when a meter on the screen is filled, they can also create an aura around them which heals allies inside. This meter can be filled over time, or by eating program hearts. Raining soup can be very annoying, as you lose health constantly if there's enough of them, and can sometimes instantly regen all HP to a teammate. Espacios carry pickaxes as melee weapons. They can also throw power pellets, which when hitting a surface will emit a shockwave which slows down any opponents in radius for 3 seconds. They are also one of the few special characters that can use mines. The only real annoying thing is their power pellet. Ransomware carry crowbars as melee weapons. They also have the ability to steal items and resources from opponents, like mines or food. They are also one of the few special characters that can use mines, the cookie of the corruption side. That's all of the special token characters. Most of them were completely fine if they are alone, but obviously that's never the case a lot of the time. I believe that it's because of how small the map is makes it really rare for someone to be alone, especially if it's a token character, since teams are evenly spread out along the map most of the time, or one team is clumped up together in one spot, making an amalgamation of different characters jumping an enemy and deleting them from the map instantly. Most of the time the only way to defeat these hordes is by teaming up with everyone, which is against the rules to do so, which is unfortunate. You shouldn't have to break a rule in order to play the game as intended. Those are the issues that I can remember with the gameplay mechanics, so let's move on to another problem. Data Brawl roleplay is pretty self-explanatory. A non-battle version of the game dedicated to role-playing as your favorite shapeweed creatures. I spent most of my time in this community in this game, as I don't really like its battle counterpart. This game always had the same issues since launch and doesn't have many issues unique to the game, and are more just general issues with any Roblox RP game. Though this doesn't mean that it should be let off easy, as these issues manifested like a cancer tumor over the years, with one of its main issues being that a lot of the role players that aren't the notable ones are most likely children, which you can definitely tell how that goes. A lot of generic imps so evil and powerful, and I have 99999 HP and God OCs, which gets very old very quick when you've seen every single trope in one server. Not to mention a lot of the annoying ass users that constantly pester you to join their RP even after you've said no 86 times. And over the years it's only got more and more common for these things to happen, which discourages a lot of players to roleplay as a result, which brings me to the next issue. That being that servers are full of out-of-character players filling up server slots. These players can either be chill, or the most insufferable people to come across. Some just enter a server to chat with their friends, which I'm bittersweet about. It's completely fine to do that in my opinion, but at the same time it can be annoying when a majority of the server is just that. Since these people fill up server slots, having your friends join for a RP session just for one of them to not be able to join since the server is full gets aggravating after a few times. Then there's the people that enter a server solely to be a nuisance to other around them. In DBRP there are mines that you can purchase for 15 Robux, which acts as a donation feature to the devs, and, as foreshadowing, please do not support these people at all. I will explain later. When these people purchase mines, they throw them into busy areas, so when they explode everyone gets flung around, disrupting any role play that might be going on there. Luckily there's a feature that disables being flung by these mines, but it gets annoying when someone throws 20 mines into the same area. And unfortunately this is basically the game now, since not many people roleplay in this game and 'tis been turned into a social hangout game with the ability to simulate domestic terrorism. It's sad to see. But these people are just the surface of a very deep rabbit hole, which is the hell that is the community of Data Brawl. Now here is where it gets real bad. This community is one of the most miserable group of people I have ever seen, as they complain about everything constantly, whether it being the game, someone in the community, someone speaking in the art channel, a suggestion, and the biggest sin of them all, politics. To start off lightly, they whine about the game a lot of the time, usually being something along the lines of "I hate X thing," which is always some minor issue that doesn't really matter, like a hand being slightly off-center on a model. Then there's the politics, which is the most idiotic and annoying goddamn thing this community has to offer, as people complain about the same stupid dumbass shit constantly. One good example is on July 4, 2025, a massive political debate ensued for an unknown reason. To summarize this, as explaining the entire situation will take me way too long, and this video is already getting very long. But as a warning, there will be a rant coming up ahead. The conversation started when someone said how the woke is ruining everyone, blah blah blah, because in the Big 25 we still have people that hate gays. However, this comment ended up spiraling into a political talk channel a little after I went back to the general channel, since I didn't want to get involved in that, and boy was I wrong when I thought that it was over. Because all of a sudden a group of fucking morons called someone racist because apparently it's a quote-unquote dog whistle to say that you don't like kids speaking in brain rot language that nobody understands, somehow. Then how all Jewish people are horrible people that think exactly the same and defiantly don't have their own opinions on a particular conflict that I will not mention, because apparently assuming that a certain race/group of people are some kind of hive mind isn't discriminatory and or racist, and yet the people saying this stuff say that we shouldn't be discriminatory or racist to people, and we must all value each other the same. Which is completely fine, as we shouldn't be thinking about others differently because of someone's race or beliefs, of course, if those beliefs are within reason. But it makes you look bad if you advocate for that while doing exactly what you're against. Unfortunately, these people suffer from the mentality that everyone must abide by some set of rules aside from them, which is a super shitty, though, process to have. But the worst thing that I found was that there was a bunch of people saying how America is the worst country ever, and you don't have any rights, as well as it being an authoritarian regime like China. This shit made me so fucking pissed, as these people have no idea what they are talking about in the slightest. I'm an immigrant from the Eastern Bloc, which is known to be the poorer side of the world, and over there MSUT countries, and especially the one I live in, suffer from high government corruption rates. That area of the world has less rights than America by a mile. But no, America's the issue, because they don't allow illegal immigrants to reside in their country. Make it make sense. It's one thing to want undocumented migrants into a nation, but it's another to say that you have no rights in the country notoriously known for being the most free nation in the world. There were more stuff during that whole argument, but it's more or less the same few things being spewed out over and over, like how they want the President of the United States to be assassinated. I can understand not liking someone, but wishing death upon another human being because they don't think the same as you is very immature of you. I don't like the man either, but at least I don't prance around unrelated Discord servers saying that you wish the president is butchered Jeffrey Dahmer style. If you think that, grow the fuck up and deal with it. It's ridiculous that someone can be stupid enough to even come to that conclusion. Because your party didn't win the elections, maybe they'd have a better chance if they weren't calling half the US population Nazis and fascists. Maybe your party would have a better chance if they were professional in their rallies rather than acting like children. Have you ever thought about that? Shut up. If you're making angry comments to yourself right now about how I'm a fascist, then you're exactly the kind of person I'm talking about. I know what you are. Honestly, the breaking point I had with this community is that there were higher-ups, like game and server moderators, talking about this. Even the creator was in on this bullshit. It's fucking ridiculous how unified these rats are on politics, probably because only on that opposed them left or were shadow banned. Ironic, since they say how America has no rights, while in the community you don't have free speech. Hilarious. In the channel this was being discussed about, I asked how it came to the point that it was at, and a higher up told me, yes, me, to shut up and that him quote unquote not helping. Who the fuck said I was helping or not? It's insane that everyone was also on board with that too. I got another message that said the following: Data Brawl users, when the topic on hand isn't observer funny and it's actually a mature topic, yay man, talking about politics is so fucking more, am I right? It's really mature to say that you want the president to die, or that Jewish people are demons, or how Christians are bad people. Yay, really mature. For Christ's sake, everyone is bad aside from them in the world. It's also really nice seeing that almost all of the people talking about politics are under voting age, some being as young as 14. You'll go play Fortnite or something, you're too young to talk about this stuff. Your biggest worry at 14 is how your hair looks, or if you have a zit on your face. Jesus Christ, you guys are so brain dead. To all the underage fuckers that think talking about politics makes you look more mature, no it does not. Your brain hasn't even developed enough to make proper decisions. You can't even fucking drive, yet you're so hyperfixated on whether or not gay people have equal rights. Newsflash, the US solved this issue when you were still shitting your dubber for the most part. You're a fucking kid, go do your homework. Alright. Rant's over. Now, on to Exhibit 4. Duncan is the main creator of Data Brawl, and he is no better than the community. He thinks the same things as what I just mentioned in the last section, so I will not go over it again. However, I'll go over some of his posts, like one from July where he says this: we exist in a regime of projectorates, people who accuse their enemies of doing awful things, like turning the US into a super police state and controlling speech, only to do the exact same thing when they gain power, as will always be the case. Their accusations against others are self-confessions. You can insert my immigrant monologue here, and how my nation is far worse than America here, as comparing the land of the free as North Korea, an actual super police state. I'm unsure what point he's trying to make here, as no such thing has happened in America in the recent years, but okay. Then they posted an image from some anime with a guy holding up an American flag, with another saying "Ugh, put that hard thing away." Apparently the US is only good if it's run by their party. Grow up. You're 28 years old. Also, they felt the need to complain that they saw a Reagan Bush 84 shirt in public. That's such petty shit to get upset about. The Reagan-Bush administration happened before they were even born. Such a nothing thing to get mad about. Or a non-political post they made which says this: I hate how Slaanesh is depicted as a horny big booby sex goddess, when that's literally not what they are. I'm primarily blaming those who aren't 100% engaged in the lore, who rely on memes for information. It's like Facebook grandma level of understanding what Slaanesh is about, which is nothing. Which is a fair point, since women shouldn't be seen like that, as they are people too. But it's ironic since they have a character named Aki, which is a very disproportionate girl character, with unrealistic sized breasts, really dismantles his entire point. He also reposted an image with him and another user on Roblox in a pool, with the other user having a character in a bikini or some other kind of swimsuit. Roblox Gunnar stocks are rising as we speak. And lastly, they made a post with his self-insert in some kind of mech suit with very disproportionately sized thighs and ass, with the post text saying, when I get back to doing this I'm gonna give his design more bright pink and blue, and then ditch the lore about him having thick utility pants. His ass is just huge, there's no denying it, okay? And why does this quality have to be present? Again, it's just Gunnar thoughts leaking into someone's creation. It's sickening. Other than that, their blue ski is relatively alright, though more things have happened on their Twitter most likely. But Fave deleted it so you can't access its posts anymore, unfortunately. Though their blue ski is tame more likely, because it's still a newish account and there isn't too many posts yet, so it may spiral downhill as time passes. On to Exhibit 5. This will probably be a short section, since there isn't much to mention that I haven't already covered, but there is still some dumb crap to go through with the community, if you can even tie this to the community. However, in the rule list of the Data Brawl Discord server there are some stupid rules and some rules that everybody forgot about apparently. The first of them being that fictional slurs like clanker are not allowed to be said as it is somehow dehumanizing. Pardon? Fictional slurs are always projected toward a group that does not exist or are not even human like zombies and robots. Some examples being in Star Clones, where the humans call robots clankers, coppertops in The Matrix, prawns for the insectoids in District 9, so on and so forth. It's really absurd to say that it's dehumanizing to call groups of people that don't exist by quote-unquote slurs that can't hurt anyone since they are not real, though this is the only stupid rule out of them, though there are many rules that people either do not follow or are completely forgotten about at times, such as this in the other specified content section, that says real-world events such as tragedy, or natural disasters, or international politics are prohibited. Please keep that out of here. Though from what I explained earlier, this is a common occurrence for people to discuss about these things, and it's worse that the mods don't enforce it for in general purposes, though I'm getting ahead of myself as I'll be discussing corrupt moderation systems in a moment. Another rule states that religion or its beliefs are stated to not be mentioned in the server, even though they complain about the Christian church a lot of the time, or will sometimes pull something out of their ass about some other religion. An example being that you are allowed to accept LGBTQ as an Islamic follower when it is not the case in a majority of the Islamic republics. In most countries you can be served jail time as well as hefty fines, and in some countries will flat out kill you for doing so. So no, Islam is not known to accept homosexuals, and most likely never will. That's all with the rules however, so that's a plus that there is only mild levels of bullshit in the rule list. With that said, let's move on to the sixth exhibit. Inside of the Data Brawl Discord server, there are such things as noted users, which are most of the time friends with a moderator, contributor, developer, or the creator, which I find pretty stupid as these people have more perks by default just because they so happen to be friends with some contributor that probably hasn't been active in the server since 2021, and are sometimes treated differently than regular users. Usually these perks are image perms and the ability to change their display name, as far as I know anyway. But the more baffling thing is that these noted users are let off easier on rule breaking at times, which is why people like AdsRenvy get away with their political debates and their tendency to be very egotistical at times, while a regular user would more likely get punished for such things. Noted users either get a reduced punishment or none at all. Next you have the contributors, which used to be a group of people that did something to the game, like their custom character getting added to DBRP, but because this is the Data Brawl community we're talking about, being picked by the devs to add your content into the game as a regular user is a theory by this point, as most contributors are picked out due to them being a dev of some big game, or a person that's popular within the community. At least that's the case with the more recent contributors, as Antimatatus was more than likely picked out due to him being a dev of Snow Day, a popular Roblox game with 76 million visits, and if that's true then that's pretty lame, as you can probably make the reasonable assumption that Duncan is trying to make the game look better, as it is a dying game, maybe as an attempt to bring in more players to their game, which is honestly pretty sad. Speaking of Antimatatus, they are at least allegedly 14 since people can lie about their ages, but if it's true then he is not fit for being a server and game moderator, as teenagers are stupid and will most likely enforce rules only if it benefits them, like if they were in an argument for example. Another thing being that he was talking about politics during the 4th of July incident, which is stated in the rules to not talk about, so there's another reason for him to not be a moderator. If you can't follow the rules that you are enforcing then you're not fit for your role, and you should step down for someone better to take your place, which by the way, moderators breaking this rule is fairly common within the server. I don't want to sound like that one guy that says play all the mods are bad, let's kill them, because there are actually some moderators that are fine like Retconer, Kulik, and Brecco before they left the server to focus on other projects, but some of the moderators are flat out not fit for their job. As I have stated, sometimes they will enforce rules if it benefits them in an argument, like someone opposing their opinion on a useless political debate. They will time out the quote-unquote problematic person, Or theoretically, since I don't have any evidence for this, shadow banning the user and justifying it with some absurd reason, like they were racist to some species of fish or some, and since everyone there has a tampon shoved up their ass, people that oppose them will shut up or leave, which encourages that kind of behavior with moderators and becomes normalized to do so, resulting in corrupt moderation systems. The general issue with this is when you have a creator that breaks his own rules, then the moderators will soon follow, making a chain reaction until it reaches the regular users, creating the cesspool that is Data Brawl. It only takes a spark to start a fire. Moving on to the subsection of this is that the moderation can be lackluster at times. Sometimes filing a report ticket takes a very stupid amount of time to be dealt with, usually the perpetrator having already left the server by the time your ticket gets noticed. I understand there are things people are doing and I don't accept moderators to instantly respond to a ticket, but my patience runs thin when I've been waiting for more than an hour with no response and the moderator I pinged has been online the entire time I've been waiting. Then it's somehow my fault when they don't respond and the person I'm reporting has probably made a Thanksgiving meal by the time the moderator responds to my ticket. It gets annoying real fast considering how many times this happens. I've probably filed about 10 reports, and only 3 were dealt with because I didn't need to wait 2 to 3 business days for them to be noticed. I guess the report tickets are being sent by the post van, I guess, if it's taking this long. And that's the problems with the higher-ups. Moving on to some crappy Data Brawl wiki stuff. The Data Brawl wiki is home to many pages documenting characters, lore, gameplay, and history, obviously. But the shitty thing about it is when a contributor leaves the dev team their characters are removed on request, which is totally fine. But the wiki page dedicated to said content is immediately shafted from the wiki, and you can't even use fandom's history page to view older modifications of the page. They are completely gone. Which is really stupid, as it defeats one of the big reasons of having a wiki. It's supposed to document all content from a game from start to finish. I can get by if the content was made by a bad actor, so obviously you want to remove all mentions of their content. But removing pages because someone doesn't want to be affiliated with the game anymore isn't a justifiable reason. All this does is create lost media. If you need to sift through years' worth of messages to find a blurry image to prove a character's existence, then that's not removing content for the respect of the author, that's poor management and lack of care to archive old content. The dumber thing is that there is a removed content section of the wiki, but it's outstandingly empty due to most pages being erased from the internet, resulting in this section only having a very small pool of non-creator made removed content. Being scared that you'll upset someone that isn't even in the community anymore by removing all mentions of their content, if they are not a bad actor, is pretty childish behavior. You can't upset someone if they aren't in the community anymore, and I highly doubt they will be upset anyway. Also, when you try to find a particular image of some character that was removed, or even just going to read their page just to find out that the page for said character died in a tragic car accident, can get annoying after it happening a lot of times, especially for newer players that might not know a character a lot of players are mentioning. The whole reason of archiving stuff is so people in the future can go and learn about older pieces of media and compare it to the modern day counterpart of whatever platform it may be. Archiving older pages also gets rid of the problem with newer players asking the same question 8 billion times because of the wiki's poor documentation, which would make the players slightly more happy, as they don't have to ask the same overdone question 10 times a day. That's really the only issue with the wiki, however. I'll give it props to the wiki editors who thoroughly document the stuff included in these pages, as they answer pretty much any question someone might have about a character as well as facts that players might not know about. Now the next and last exhibit I'll mention has mentions of a topic that may not be suitable for everyone, that being pedophilia. If you are not comfortable about this topic, skip to the timestamp on screen. With that being said, let's get this over with, as this video is way longer than I thought it would be. I saved this section for last, as I have the most to say about this. Data Brawl has had a pretty bad reputation when it comes to groomers being in their contributor team, and sometimes just being a user in the server. A notable and recent example being Rox, a former DB contributor, who was a very high-ranked person of the popular mascot horror game Dandy's World. A lot of their acts being incredibly vile stuff that might get me age-restricted, though he groomed multiple kids, got a 15-year-old's pictures, drew illegal content, and much more that I feel too nauseous to list down. The really bad part was that Quelver, the owner of Blush Crunch Studios, enabled this behavior and defended Rox even after getting caught with what I listed. This leaked into the Data Brawl community as Rox was a modeler in DB, until he was caught prior to this incident, as well as him contacting the devs to quote-unquote apologize for his actions, which he did not, as he still continued to do his disgusting shit. Arguments ensued, battles were fought, until Quelver finally caved in and fired Rox. Well after he was supposed to be, as the damage had already been done. Though one of the most egregious things Duncan could have done happened, he forgave Quelver for defending obvious predator. This decision was probably one of the most controversial things Duncan has done, as I don't think anybody should forgive someone for housing and defending a predator at all just because they said a measly sorry. What a fucking joke all of this is. Second chances should not be given to people like that, and they should burn in hell where they belong. I'll link Rox's document in the description if any of you want to read, as it is its own rabbit hole and would take too long to cover here. And there are definitely better videos that can explain this situation in way better detail than I could, though it only gets worse from here, as in a lot of cases where predators are caught within the DB server are very unprofessionally dealt with, as they ban the user that was a predator and later type out a very vague message that the guy was a bad actor, but never properly state what they did or where's the evidence, and nobody in the community seems to care and are completely okay with just not knowing anything about said person aside from that they were a bad person. I know documents are hard to create, but it's your responsibility, as a game owner, to notify everyone in your community in detail with evidence about a person, so they can have an understanding about what made the person bad, and to steer clear of that person if they ever come across them. If this doesn't happen, you end up with things similar to the Huey incident, where a popular Data Brawl animator on YouTube got exposed for something. Even now I can't find a solid answer on what happened to them due to this poor documentation. All I know was they allegedly did a pregnant RP-thine with one of the higher-ups when they were younger, but there's no evidence that I can find that confirms that happened, or that they made NSFW art of Motherboard. And yet again I can't find any evidence of that existing, and this kind of stuff is what causes so many predators to be in the DB server, aside that the community is mostly minors, because even if they get caught they know nothing of significance is going to happen to them, because at the end of the day they will most likely be forgotten about and can make an out account just to do the same thing again, which results in the community being a high-risk server to be in, as there can be a predator lurking anywhere at any time. I know what this isn't an issue exclusive to Data Brawl. Every community will eventually have this sort of incident occurring, no matter how hard they try to prevent it, which is a sad reality. But back to what I was saying, the lackluster documentation of predators in the DB servers results in many occurrences where someone will mention a bad actor's content and then get flamed for mentioning it due to them not knowing that their favorite character was made by said bad actor. And this is a big issue, as you can only know about all these predators if you were a part of the Data Brawl community for a long enough time, as newer players have two ways of accessing the information to know about these bad people, which then they end up looking like asshats because they are praising something a bad actor created, even though they didn't have the intent on doing so. And unfortunately 3 friends of mine were these bad actors, not higher-ups but regular users. One of them groomed me, the other slept with an underage OC in roleplay, and the other got exposed within the Data Brawl server, and only one of them were properly documented, which is now lost to time. If this isn't a wake-up call to anyone in the DB community that there is a really bad predator issue in the server, then I don't know what is. Especially on how many contributors were called out for liking kids a little too much. Many characters were removed because these were bad actors, and it's unfortunate that so much talent is thrown away because people can't stop liking kids. It's abhorrent behavior and it's a horrific experience to endure as a victim. I just don't know why this is such a big issue here, as way bigger communities seem to handle this issue better than Data Brawl, which has a way smaller fan base than most popular games. I'm unsure what can truly be done to lower the rate of these people gaining power, but some form of background check via the search filter on Discord can make the smallest of difference. It's sad how far Data Brawl has strayed from its original community. Even with its many. That's all I can really say about the Data Brawl community and its problems. To wrap things up, I'll put some concluding thoughts on this whole situation, and to clarify some things. Even with its many flaws, I still grasp to the community firmly, even though I'm not within its server or active in the games all too much. It was a place for me to meet some wonderful people, some I still frequently spend time with. I feel like it's too harsh to say that everything is horrible and that I've gained nothing positive out of being here, as there are still many positives to the game and its community. It's just so shrouded with negativity a lot of the time that you can't truly take in the whimsy of talent and progress this game and community have gone through. I love a lot about it, but it's not perfect, far from it due to its glaring issues. But if you take out all the big problems with it, you'll see that the community houses a lot of talented artists, writers, modelers, animators, and more. The server is home to a lot of amazing people as well, a lot of them being the people I'm still with, and I'm very grateful that I have found this community so many years ago, but I know it can be better. I see its potential. All that's missing is fixing its major issues, and it can soar in the skies with the other great games. I really hope that these issues will be solved over time, as it's upsetting to see the community in its current state. I don't mind the smaller issues like the wiki, but I know that most of the major issues aside from the predators can be solved with enough cooperation. Balancing will be fixed in the battle counterpart sequel, which I'm very excited to see how they fix that, adding a dedicated thread in the forums section for people that want to discuss politics, so you can make both sides happy, as now users can have their own enclosed space to bicker while everyone else can do their stuff interrupted, as most of the time debates happen in the art discussion channels or the general channel. The blue sky thing is more of a nitpick as it's not directly related to Data Brawl, though it would be nice to maybe be a little more considerate about what is said. Moderation corruption can be fixed if there are greater penalties for breaking the rules as a moderator and discouraging abusing power with demotions. And all users should be accounted for and treated equally when they break a rule. No perks just for being a higher up anymore. The wiki archiving issue can be fixed by leaving their content in the archived section away from the main content of the wiki, with the creator's name being anonymized to respect their decision, as it's sad to see content become lost media. And lastly, add even just a basic check system for contributors, as to have potentially less groomers lurking in the higher roles. Those are some possible fixes for most of these problems. Again, I don't outright hate the place, but I want to criticize some things that I didn't see many other mention, and possibly bring these issues into a bigger light. With that all said, if you watched all the way through, thank you. It makes me happy that you willingly sat through this horrific text-to-speech module yap about some community most people probably haven't heard of. This will probably be the only video I make that's like this, as I want to create other stuff that isn't just me complaining with some shitty TTS system talking in the background, as I know not many people like that. Though I didn't want to make a silent 40-minute video about this, as that would also be pretty lame. So I decided to use the TTS just this one time. That's all I wanted to say though. Thank you, and I'll see you in whatever I'll make after this.